You are listening to Kick It, Don't Quit It, a motivational, spiritual podcast seeking to spread love and grace. We are thankful you have tuned in. So without further ado, come kick it with the girls. Don't quit on the world. Hey guys, welcome to Kick It, Don't Quit It. It's our very first episode. So for this episode, we're gonna. You guys can talk. You don't have to be quiet.
Oh, I thought we had to be quiet.
No. You don't have to be quiet.
Well, it is your turn to talk.
It is my turn to talk, but just because it's my turn to talk doesn't mean you guys can't.
I can vent for you.
Doesn't mean you can't chime in. So if I say something and you think, hey, that sounds cool, I have something about that, go ahead, chime in. So on this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about who we are so that you guys can get to know us a little bit better. Sometimes it's easier to listen to people when you feel like you know them a little bit. So again, my name is Erin. I am married. In November, it'll be 10 years. Can you believe 10 years? We have we have 7 kids.
Brady Bunch.
Brady Bunch, yes.
After a certain number of kids, you just stop counting? Is that why you forget?
Well, we added one this year. I have a son who is 21, and he has a best friend who has been a part of our family for a while now. And he asked us this year if we would adopt him.
Aww.
And so he is added to our family. So I have, my oldest is 21. Our youngest is 8. Will be 9 in December. And everybody says she's my favorite. Probably because she's caused me the least amount of trouble so far. I'm sure that'll change as she gets older.
So what they say is true. She is your favorite.
She is my favorite right now. I will admit it. But she's pretty much everybody's favorite. If you meet anybody in the family, her brothers, her sister.
I think I favor her over my own children.
You do. Well, you have claimed that she is yours. You've actually terrified the child at points because you've told her that she is your child, and sooner or later that will switch our kids back, and I will get Addie and you will get Kennedy. And she says no. So anyway, so that's a little bit about me. I've been going to Salvation Ministries. We all are a part of the same church body. And I've been going there for about 11 years now. So, Holly?
Yeah. So I'm Holly, and I am going to be 43 soon. So I am a grandmother princess. I have one child on the way out. So she will be leaving the house soon. She's in her senior year, and my other children are grown up. So I have grandchildren. And, of course, I know these lovely ladies from going to church with them, and
I did not realize you were younger than me.
Yeah.
By a couple years. I'm not.
Are you saying I look old?
No, but you do have grandkids already, and I don't have any yet. I'm sure. I already know within a couple of years I will have them. I have one son who is already married, has been married almost a year, and I have 2 that are getting married this year in September and October. And so I know in a couple of years I will have a bunch of grandbabies, and I'll be asking people to take some of them because I will have so many.
You will not ask anybody to take your grandkids, I can promise you. You're much closer to asking to take your children than grandchildren. Grandchildren are they call them grand for a reason.
I've already, my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, her mother goes to church with us, and I've already told her, I said, you can hold the baby during praise and worship when I'm on the stage, and then I get it for service. And she's like, I can work with that. So I don't think anybody will be allowed to hold any of the grandbabies for a while.
I turned into a monster when I started having grandchildren. So when I had kids, I I didn't care who held them. As a matter of fact, I was asking strangers if they wanted to hold them. But when I had grandkids, I showed up like I had a football uniform on. I didn't want anybody to touch or come near or breathe or look. And I realized that wasn't really, that wasn't making people like me very much.
Right.
I eventually had to settle down a little bit, but something came over me when it came to grandkids. And so I've relaxed a little bit and kind of let a lot of that go, but they're just different. Grandkids are
I'm
different.
excited. I really am. I'm looking forward to that season of life. And Kennedy has finally resigned herself to being an aunt. She wanted a baby sister or a baby brother for a little bit, and then she realized she wouldn't be the baby anymore. And so she decided that she was not for that. And then when we started talking about bringing babies into the house, she was like, I don't know, no. And I was like, it's okay. You get to be the cool young aunt.
So as y'all talk about kids out the door and grandbabies being born, I'm over here with young kids. I'm still being terrorized, and I haven't got to the grand part yet. So my kids, my name's Megan, by the way. My kids are... One of them is about to be a preteen. She is turning 12, and we are getting on up in there. And then I've got a 7-year-old who thinks she's a 30-year-old about to turn 8. And I tell you what, these ages are going to literally kill me. So
I'd love to tell you that it gets easier soon, but it does not. I have 4 still at home. I have one that will be a senior this year, one who's a junior. And then my girls are 13 and 8. So Caitlin will be in 8th grade this year, and she's 13. And we're getting to the spot where she's pushing boundaries of different things. Like she came to my mom's house this Wednesday and was in her quote unquote church clothes, and she's like, I found a skirt that I like. It's got shorts built into it, and it was about 3 inches above her knees, and mom's like, I don't think that's gonna work. So my mom put tights on underneath it. But I was like, she's just pushing her boundaries. She's trying to figure out what we'll allow and what we won't allow. And it's difficult sometimes because you have to be like hyper vigilant, and you have to pay attention to so many things that with my boys, I didn't have to worry about that. I mean, they're not walking around in booty shorts.
thank the Lord.
No, right. We're all walking around in booty shorts or shirts that, come up if they barely even lift a finger. But with the girls, I have Kennedy, who at this moment, if she has a shirt that even looks like it's going to come down her shoulder or down in the front, she wants something underneath it. She wants a tank top, which I'm happy about. I hope she stays that way. And then I have one who's kind of pushing the boundaries to see what I'll allow and what I'll let her out of the house in. And
I'd like to tell you that gets better the older they get for girls, but it just changes fashion, and it changes the boundaries. So my 17-year-old last year went to prom, and so my convictions with what I wear are different than hers, and I don't force her to wear the things that I wear because she's a different person. Her walk with the Lord is different than mine. So when she was looking for dresses, she was showing me pictures, and I said, we're not looking for this design. And she said, Mom, I don't want you to push your conviction on me because I'm not you. And I said, Emma, this has nothing to do with conviction. This has to do with you ain't walking out of my house looking like that.
yes. Wow.
And so there's a difference between, hey, this is what I wear because this is where my heart has been pricked to and led me to be and to dress modestly, and that it just happens to be a different way than hers.
Yeah.
And her walking out of the house being
a hoochie mama.
But yeah. So
Well, I'm the hoochie mama that showed up at the church, if y'all remember.
Oh, we remember.
Yes.
We remember.
I'm not sure there's not much you don't remember. But God's been good, and He has guided me through it. And I really like what you had to say, Holly, about convictions, because we all have them. We're all different people, and they look different. And I really like the non-judgment that you exercise to your daughter. Hearing you say that actually encourages me for the day that my daughter's 17 and she wants to dress a certain way and kind of expose parts of her that maybe the whole world don't need to see. So I'm going to take that tip from you, and you send me the bill.
Oh, I will.
And that's one thing that we've been going through this last year. We are a blended family. My 13-year-old daughter is my stepdaughter. And there's different rules in our house as there is in her mama's house. And her mama is in church, but there are different rules for how to dress at her church than there is at our church. And I want, when my kids come into service, for them to be presenting their best. That doesn't mean they need to be dressed to the nines. I'm not saying they have to be in a suit and tie or in whatever, but I want them to look nice. And I know Caitlin in the last year has had some troubles at school with when she would wear a skirt or wear a dress on Wednesdays, because we have church on Wednesdays, that people would say stuff. And so then she didn't want to wear that. And so we went back and forth with, well, that's not my conviction, or that's not this, or that's. And so we went back and forth on trying to figure out what was the best outlet and the best way to present ourselves. And as everybody knows, the biggest trend, especially right now, is leggings and a t-shirt. That's what all the girls are wanting to wear. That's all they they walk out of the house. And I told Caitlin, I said, I'm okay with that, but you're going to have a shirt that comes down over your butt. We're not going to go out and just show everything we got. Even though it's leggings, it's still not appropriate.
Well, I don't want to tell you what my business apparel is on Zoom then. It's party on the top, sleepy on the bottom.
Well, it's a little different when you're doing a Zoom and they only see you from, the waist up or the chest up, than walking into school with your butt hanging out. So,
well, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And please be candid, because I need to know this for myself. Right. Because for us, that come as you are element creates a comfortability for people. Right. It gives people they show up with a little bit of that, because I think that some folks show up thinking they're going to be judged. Right. So that come as you are element is something that I've thought about. How do I make people feel? How am I dressing? Is what I'm dressing making people feel uncomfortable? Right. Making people feel like they have some sort of expectation they have to live up to. But then on the other side of that coin, I also want to show up my best. I want to show up looking my best. I want to show up presentable. So there's a lot of different elements to it. Wow. And church is come as you are. Jesus, he never talked about what people, I never remember reading in any of the Gospels that he talked about what people wore. No. He just said, come follow me. Right. So, what are your thoughts on that, Megan?
Well, when I think of nowadays and the times that we're in, I think that the fear is, as a visitor to church, am I going to fit the quote unquote the dress code? Mm-hmm. And I've actually had a person ask me, what's the dress code of your church? And that actually broke my heart, Holly, Aaron, because there's not a dress code. It's come as you are. I was the person who come into church with the low cut top with everything hanging out. I didn't leave much to mystery, but that's what was normal to me. And had I walked in the church and I would have got stared and gawked at, I wouldn't be holding this microphone talking with you. So for the visitor, come as you are. For the person who's in between the visitor and the saint, come as you are. But I think throughout your walk with God, I think that He'll lean on your heart. I've seen modesty in different forms. I don't even feel comfortable listing certain type of clothing on this mic, because modesty in my way might look a little different from you, and that doesn't make you wrong or me right, or vice versa. So back to your question, what was that?
Well, and in talking to you guys about this, and I think that's why, another reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because we are better together, and we can see things. And maybe I'm too hard on Caitlin, and maybe I need to give her leeway to be who God has called her to be, and still instill in her the modesty, and still instill in her. But if it's okay to wear Monday and Tuesday, why isn't it okay to wear Wednesday?
I use Holly over here. I have two girls, as you know, and I know the people listening to this can't hear this, but one of them will wear skirts and dresses, and they're always below the knee. And then you will look at one of my other children, who is the leggings and t-shirt girl. And one of my daughters wanted to wear a certain kind of apparel, and the other one didn't, and she wanted to wear this. Well, Holly, in her infinite wisdom, sometimes I compare her to Jesus, y'all. You'll know why later on, but
Don't ask my husband that. He'll give you a completely different opinion.
She shared with me with her teenage daughter, Emma, she wanted to wear something and Mom wore something different, and I noticed that Holly didn't force that on her. And whereas in church culture, and I'm just being real, y'all, so in church culture, I feel like church can be a little judgy at times, especially the more well-rounded person who's been in there longer. The Bible says that man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. That's scripture, y'all. And so as someone who's striving to take the heart of God and place it in myself, I want to be like Jesus. So a lot of times I just think to myself, just because it's different, it doesn't make it wrong. Okay. And if I force my convictions on my daughters, then they're only doing it for me. So is that really satisfying God? I don't think so. I don't see Him being happy with that. I don't even see Him requesting that.
Well, we have a responsibility, of course, to guide our children, I think.
Yes.
But I promise you, I'm never married to my opinions.
Yeah.
And as I grow in Christ and as I mature,
yeah,
my opinions will change.
Mm-hmm.
The people I hang around, the influences that I have, I evolve, I change, and I pray it's always for the better. You show me your 5 people, I'll show you your future. And so I want to be around people that make me better, that challenge me to be better. But in the same vein, I also want to make sure that I'm doing what the Lord tells me to do, even that if that might be against the grain of what someone else feels that is right for them. So, kids don't come with a handbook. I mean, I was 17. Yeah, me too. I was 17 years old when I had my first child. So I was a kid myself. I had no idea what in the world I was doing. And I was a completely different parent then than I am now.
Right.
Now, people are like, oh, you've got your life together, you've got a great career, and your kids are getting older. And the reality is you don't know the hell that I went through getting here. Right. My 40s have been great, but my 30s and 20s, that's a whole nother story. Right. I was making mistakes left and right.
And while on the topic of clothing and convictions and children, something else, Erin, I never want someone to ask my child, why do you do that? And I don't want the answer to be because my mom makes me. Right. And obviously, why do you do the dishes? My mom makes me. That's the tip. That's the response. But I'm talking deeper than chores. Right. I'm talking about convictions. So I don't want that to be the answer that my child gives. I want the answer to come from my daughter my daughters, this is what this is what I feel I need to do for God. And if that looks different from me, I've learned that I have to accept that. And if somebody else around me that I fellowship with, that I love, that is very much human like me, has an issue with that, then that becomes an issue with them and God, not me or my daughters.
Right.
And so I don't ever want to create where my child is taking things to school, changing, and they're putting things on and they're taking things off, and they're trying to hide from me, because the world screams hide from your parents, they're not safe. I want my children to run to me.
Right.
And so I didn't always have that thought process. Actually, I had the hard, you're not going to do that, you're going to do this. And I had that for a little while. And through Holly's experience with her teenage daughter, who at one point did X, Y, and Z, and now she does ABC, I watched how she handled that, and I asked her questions. I picked her brain. Why is she in trouble? You know, what's going on? And Holly's response, it just blew me away, that she's not going to do everything I do, and that's okay. And I thought, you know what? That is okay. That is. So that's what I have to say on that one.
And I think this year things may change. Because I really do. I mean, after having this conversation, I feel like
Amen.
I need to allow her. Now, there still have to be boundaries.
Yes. So I guess it is about drawing the line then, and what you'll allow.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
We have to set boundaries.
And we
got
got to know why we're setting those boundaries.
Right.
Because are we setting that boundary because it's something that we do and we've always done, and we hope for them to do? Or is it a boundary that's going to keep them safe and help them become the best child possible?
Well, I tell you, one thing that I did well with her that I did not do well with my oldest two was I encouraged a relationship with our pastor, with a man of God in her life, someone that she could trust. Because, and it's not that I didn't encourage that with the first two. I was just developing one myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to encourage her to do it, because I was just trying to get myself to do it. Well, by the time she got to the age where that was really important, then I was teaching her. I was like, hey, listen, you need to talk to Pastor about that. I appreciate you talking to me, but try talking to Pastor and Pastor's wife, because, you know, they can also counsel you as well. Well, then she was going and telling on me, which is okay.
Yes.
I had to respond correctly in that, because if I responded incorrectly to her telling on me, guess what would have happened?
Hypocrite.
She wouldn't have went to Pastor. And what I want for her is to have a spiritual leader that she can lean on to be able to, you know, come back from bad decisions and not feel like the bridge has been severed. And because that's what we all need. Because there are times we make mistakes and we have to have someone to say, hey, listen, you're being stupid.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
And I think that is one thing. You know, I have at this time, I feel like I have a really good relationship with my oldest son. It's at this point, because he is 21. He has moved out of the house. He is engaged and all of this kind of stuff. Now, I don't have to be the parent as much. I can now just be a friend. And I feel like we do have a really good friendship. There was a couple of years that was not the case. We had always been close when he was little, and then he became a teenager. Me and his dad had split. He was just kind of his things that he loved to do was not what I loved to do. Not that I mean, he was into dramas and things like that, and I loved going and watching him, but it wasn't where my thought process was at that time. And he was, you know, working and doing all this stuff, and so we just kind of lost that connection. And so it was hard. But I built that trained when he was younger, and built that connection when he was younger. And just like, you know, the Bible says, train them up in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. that goes not just towards God and a relationship with God, but I think it also lends towards the relationship that you can have with your children as well. If you train them up that, hey, I'm a friend, I'm somebody you can come and talk to. I may not always respond correctly the first time, because there was plenty of times when he'd be like, hey, Mom, I'm going here to do this. And I'm like, no, you're not. We haven't seen each other in a week. You're not doing anything. And then I would stop, and like 5 minutes later, I'd come back and be like, okay, well, let's talk about this. I did not respond correctly, but I would like to be able to see you this weekend. I understand you want to go here with your friends. Is there any way that we can carve out some time on Saturday to spend together or whatever? And he'd be like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. And so there were plenty of times I did not respond correctly in the first place. And I'm still working on stopping to think before I respond. But I did foster that relationship to where now we do have a really good relationship. And I hope that he feels like he can come and talk to me. And there have been things when he's come and he said, okay, Mom, I need to tell you something. And I'm like,
gosh, I've heard those words.
What is it that you need to tell me?
Is it necessary you have to tell me everything?
I am not looking forward. I'm looking forward to him being married, but I am not looking forward to him being married, because I can just, I already know, of course, because we are friends, and because we do kind of get at each other. We've already, he's like, I'm gonna text you, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I'm gonna text you and ask you if you're being good. Are you being good? Are you behaving? And he's like, I'm turning my phone off. So
the saying goes, a girl or a boy is yours till she takes a wife. A girl is yours the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's 100% true all the time, but it's been true in my life, because my boys, when they took a wife, my middle son, he would call me at work so often that they would make fun of him on the PA and he would just say, I need to talk to Mom. Well, there were 60 moms there. He would say, I need to talk to Mom, and they automatically knew it was him. So he literally called me several times a day. So when he got married, I told his wife, I said, Brooke, I'm so sorry, but he's all yours now. And he no longer calls me 100 times a day. He calls her, which is great. And she and I work for the same company, so, which is hilarious. But I will tell you, the best thing to do when your kids get married is become best friends with the wife, because they are the key to a good relationship with your son.
Yeah. Well, luckily so far, all three of my boys, the one that's married and the two that are about to be married, I am very close with all three of the wife and future wives. So, and I had relationships with two of them before there was ever a complete relationship with my boys. So we had a friendship, we had a relationship before that was ever a thing. And so luckily I do have that, and I worried about that, about the boys, the girls taking the boys away. That's one of those worries of a boy mom. And for a long time, all I had was two boys, and I was like, I just have two boys, and I won't have anybody. And then Kennedy came along, and so maybe that's why she's my favorite, because I know she'll love me
She's like
forever.
the household pit boss.
She is. She rules the roost. She really does. She'll go over to Nick and Becca, which is my married son, and she'll be like, can I stay the night? And they just let her. I mean, they cater to her, and the thing is they all do. They all cater to Kennedy, and you would think that would make her like just a spoiled little brat. And she is spoiled, and she is a brat sometimes, but for the most part, she's just the sweetest, kindest, most loving little kid. And well, to me,
Your rose-colored glasses.
to
so
other
sweet.
people, she's not always so. To other people, they'll be like, "Kennedy, give me a hug," and she just looks at them and gives them a snarky look. And I'm like, "Go give them a hug." And she's like, "No." So, but yeah, she's not that way really to her brothers. To her brothers, she's pretty loving, but I have to force her to hug other people sometimes.
I've been that way in my life too.
Well, you boy moms sucking up all the love. I've got 2 girls over here. Addison, I'm convinced she has my coffin picked out already, and my burial site. She'll say things that are so endearing, such as, "When you're gone, I want this," and I'm like, "You're 7." And then Kirsten, my angel from the heavens. She's, by the way, she's one of the angels, like David, Holly's husband, that we entertain their presence on earth, and my daughter Kirsten will be in the corner crying, "Our mom's never gonna die," and Addison's growling and smirking, "Yes, she is."
Oh my gosh.
I wish I was lying.
We're gonna have to cast little devils out of your house.
I know. So I'm just kind of intrigued hearing about these boy stories and their mamas. Speaking of boys and their mamas, my husband, oh my goodness, he loves his mama. It is precious. It's whenever I watch them too, it's like a relationship I've never seen. And it's just the same thing with you 2 ladies. I've seen your sons with you, and I'm like, I wonder what that's like. But I'm just too scared of boys, so I don't ever want to.
Let me tell you something. If a boy treats his mother well, he's gonna make a good husband.
Amen.
So find
Amen.
for your daughters, you encourage them to find a boy that treats his mama well,
Amen.
because they're gonna be kind.
Well, that stands true, and my husband and his mother. So that's a good point. That is valid in
I
our
have
life.
a time hop on my phone, and periodically it'll come up, and it was a little thing that I'd put on Facebook. And one Sunday, when my mom had walked around the corner, and Lance was standing around the corner kind of hiding. She goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm hiding from my mom." And she said, "Why, are you in trouble?" He goes, "No, she's just so beautiful." And I was like, and I keep it, and I'm like, I don't know if he was just being silly, but I'm going to take it to heart that he just loves his mama. And I keep it, and I think about it on those days when he's being ornery. And when he doesn't act like he loves his mama at all. And I remember at one point, he loved his mama. At one point, he really, really loved his mama. So we're at the stage now where he doesn't give me as much love as he used to.
Well, my mother redid a dresser for me, and it was one that the boys had when they were really little. And on the back of it, one of the boys had wrote, "I hate my dad." And I don't know why. He must have done something to make him mad. And I told my mother, I said, "Don't paint over that. I want it to last forever." Because that meant I was the princess.
Oh my God.
She's the princess grandma.
Yes, that's right.
Oh goodness. Okay, so we all met by going to the same church.
This is true.
I met Sister Holly. Sister Holly was going to the church before I went to the church. The church had been going about a year when I started. Sister Holly invited me to lunch, and we went and ate at Cheddar's, and then we worked out together a few times. And that's kind of how Sister Holly was really one of the first people from the church who reached out and tried to form a connection with me. And I will always forever be grateful for her in doing that. When I came to the church, I was going through a divorce. And then after my divorce, I got my to-be new husband, and brought his family to the church, and we started going. And whenever you're going through those times and through that season, you just need somebody to kind of lean on. And there was one point where I felt like I was getting really disconnected, like I didn't belong, like I was actually thinking about leaving the church and going someplace else, because I felt like everybody was connected and everybody was a group, and I was just on the outside. And I called our pastor because my sister told me to, and and I told him how I was feeling, and he said, if you want to be a part of something, you have to put yourself out there and get connected. You have to try to be a part of something. You can't just expect everybody to pull you in. You have to put yourself out there. And so like a week later, we were having a harvest party out on what was supposed to be our new church land, that became not our new church land. But we were out there, and I walked up to Sister Holly and I said, if you need any help with the Christmas play, I would like to help. And she said, oh, awesome, because I have been meaning to ask you if you would take over when I'm on vacation, if you would just help with this section of the Christmas play. And I said, I'd be more than happy to. You just tell me what you need me to do, and the rest is history.
I had forgotten about that.
And now I am I am so involved in stuff. If there's something that I'm not involved in, it's weird.
Yes.
But yes, I mean, Sister Holly has been my connection on a lot of things, and thank you for being that for me.
Well, it has been my blessing. And you know, I teach at a faith-based rehabilitation center in our area, and one of the things that I tell the girls is the key to not backsliding is to get involved in everything. Because if you get involved in everything, if something happens, if life happens, if you have a death in the family, if you have a weak moment, if you make a bad mistake, whatever the case may be, then, and you just don't want to go back anymore, you're going to have to disconnect from this thing, from that ministry, from this duty, from this obligation, from this commitment. And it's really difficult to do that. It's difficult to backslide if you're committed and you are participating in everything, because now you've got to go and unravel yourself from the church inner workings. And it makes it really hard, because there's been times where I've been weak and just didn't want to go anymore, or I was offended, because the Bible says offenses will come. But it was because of my obligations. It was because of the way that I had intertwined myself in everything that was going on at the church, that it kept me involved until the Lord could help me get through that and get me out of that mindset and those strongholds that I had.
I love that input, Holly. And so Erin kind of gave us a glimpse of her arrival and what kept her during her stay. I'm kind of curious, and I'm sure our listeners are too. Who was Holly when she arrived at this church that we call Salvation Ministers? Who was she? Will you kind of give me a picture of what that looked like?
Oh my gosh. So I had started a job, and I was in my early 20s, and there was a lady that worked there that was a Christian, and I remember thinking, I don't want to go to her office because she's nuts. I had not grown up in church. I didn't even know how to look up a scripture. I didn't know anything about it, and I know I didn't want anything to do with it. So, but we became really quick friends. We shared some common interests, and so she kept inviting me to church for a couple of years, and I finally decided to go. And her and I loved it. I loved it. I was filled with the Holy Ghost. I fell in love with the music and the people, and I met my husband and I were actually living together. We were unmarried, and I had come from a long history of dysfunction, which we'll get into on another day. But so it was one thing at a time that the Lord started changing about me. And so in 2011, Sarah, which was the friend that kept inviting me, her husband opened Salvation Ministries.
Wow.
And I didn't want to leave the church I was going to because it was closer to home. And but three months I was watching people, their lives get changed, and I'm like, I got to be a part of this. I can't not go. So I started Salvation Ministries 3 months after they opened in 2011, and it has just been one of the fastest growing home missions churches in the area, in this part of the state. So it's been wonderful watching lives being changed and me being changed. And some things were really easy and some things were very hard. So
I love hearing the history that you two women have with the Lord and the people of God. And I notice when you both talk, you get this, and I don't want to sound super cheesy or corny, but y'all better get used to it. I just see that glimmer in your eye and that excitement. I feel the same way. You know, I showed up a little bit later than you guys. This is my 8th year being with you all. And I showed up a wreck. Pregnant for the second time, 19, I'm a teenager, 2 kids. I'm not even barely making minimum wage at this point. I don't know the sky from up or down. I mean, my father, you know, it's just the basic story, you know, drug addict, split home, daddy issues written all over me, and I just showed up so far from someone who looks like a church person, because I wasn't one. And what I remember specifically, you guys scared me. I remember telling the woman who really cared for me and that God called to tend to me during that time, I was like, what are these people, Amish? Like, they don't show anything. They're all covered. That's so odd. And so I was in the church with all of these people, and what I remember most is they scared me to death. I didn't understand, but what I did understand was the love they gave me. And that was a love that I had actually been in search for my whole life. And I actually taught today at a rehabilitation center. I taught about making decisions off of a temporary emotion, and that really summed up my whole story. Up until this point, most of my life, for 19 years, I can honestly say I was led by emotions. And I made a lot of decisions that I truly wish I wouldn't have made. But in that, I have found tools at our church, and those tools happen to be people with faces and names. And man, I'm kind of rumbling and jumbling and all that here, but I'm just really thankful for how God's connected me with all of these women and men, because it's just helped transform me and how I think about people. And I'm thankful that you guys didn't judge me when I got there, because I probably would have been one of the easier people to judge.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus, because I'm gonna tell you there were moments where I was like, who does this girl think she is, coming in here looking like this? Don't she know no better than I would never have said it, but yes. I'm not gonna say I didn't think it. I'm not gonna say that in my head, and I'm not gonna say that when me and Daniel got in the car, there wasn't time we're like, did you see what she was wearing? I mean, and then
or what she wasn't wearing.
And then we'd be looking at the girls and be like, don't even think it. Don't even get an idea in your head. But and me and Megan, I would say for probably the first 2 or 3 years that she was at the church, we didn't have a relationship. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a connection there. And then there was a ladies conference at our church, and at that conference, I'm sitting in the back of the church, and I'm just sitting there during, I think it was probably during one of the lessons and stuff, and God just spoke to my heart, and he said that there was a need for a group for our young girls, and just age group, starting teenage. I didn't know age group completely, but I knew it was supposed to be for our teenage girls, and I immediately started thinking about it. I've learned from our pastor that when you have an idea of something, you flush out all of the stuff. Who's it for? What's it about? When's it gonna happen? And I'm thinking through all this stuff, and I come to Sister Holly, and I said, "Hey, this is my idea. What do you think?" And she said, "It sounds good. It sounds like something somebody else had talked to me about." And I think she even said Sister Megan's name, and I was like, this is my thing. And to be honest, that's the way my brain went at first. I was like, this is my thing. This is what God gave me. And she says, you just need to talk to Pastor. So I called Pastor, and he said, there's somebody else who has come to me with this. We're having a meeting. I want to meet with you both. And I was like, okay. And he said, it's Sister Megan. And I was like, I don't even know her. But it has been the best thing for the last almost 5 years. Mm-hmm. We have together ran a group called Sisterhood from our church, and the friendship that I have with Megan now, I can't imagine not having that friendship. There have been so many times I have called her frustrated about this or upset or whatever, or I don't call her and she just sends me a text and she's like, are you okay? And then she's like, are you mad at me? And
she sends you that text too? You must copy and paste it because you sent it to me.
And just the other day, she sent me a message, and she should know by now, I'm not usually a long texter. I normally respond in less than 10 words. But still, I get the text back from her, are you mad at me? And I'm like, no, I'm at work. Or no, I'm just, I'm not mad at you. This is just whatever. And so that day I sent her a text back. I was like, if you really want to know what's going on, and I sent her this huge paragraph, and I was like, well, this should make her happy.
It did.
You'll make it a lot easier on yourself if you just send a giant group text to everybody you know and say, are you mad at me? So, you might be able to get some work done. Just kidding.
But anyway, if we love her and we are never mad at her, and if we are mad at her, we will tell her point blank without her even asking if we're mad at her. But it has been such a blessing, and I've watched as God has just used her in so many ways, in ways that I'm like, I'm almost a little jealous. And if I didn't love her so much, I would be. But I know that she has put the work in. And then this last year, to see her find her man, her Thor, and get married. And
so just to give you a little backstory, she was looking for a man for a while. And a while. Her expectations were really, really high. So we said, listen, Thor is not going to come out of the ceiling speaking in tongues. This is not the way it works. And literally, he did.
His name is Ivy, and he is everything. Thor ain't got nothing on my man.
And just so you know, he's standing in the background, so she has to say those things.
You know what I really admire about you ladies is I've adopted a philosophy in my life, and it's I do hard things. And what I admire about the two of you guys is that you guys do hard things. You make hard decisions. You draw hard lines. You take away hard lines. You give with your whole heart, which can be hard sometimes. And you demonstrate restraint, which can be hard sometimes. But you do hard things. And not everybody does that. So I admire that about you too. And it's what makes being friends with you so fulfilling and just such a blessing to me. So thank you for doing hard things.
I like that, doing hard things. Well, and what I find interesting in this, Holly, is something I'm noticing is that I see three women who are obviously human, very much so. They have weak moments, and then they have those high moments where we're on the mountaintop and we're feeling the Spirit of God, and we're restraining ourselves. But I love that all three of us, that we all have those tools in us, but whereas you pour into me, Holly, one day you receive from me, and vice versa. So sometimes whenever we invest in somebody, we're actually going to cash out on that too. So I find that interesting, that when you get your 5 or your 10 or how many ever people that you keep close to you that you would consider the circle of counsel in your life, as much as they sow into you, sometimes they're going to receive of you, and vice versa. So I find that really interesting, that's I feel like that's kind of how God has this thing set up, because he tells us not to forsake the assembling of ourselves, the people. We need each other. We're better together. And it's funny that I have our pastor's picture over there, because I actually took it from his house, and I told him I was. So
You know, I read a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. And
It's about food in the floor, right?
It's not, actually. And she didn't even want to name it that, because she didn't want it associated with eating food off the floor, which I believe in that 5-second rule too. I'm just saying. So let's just be real honest here. If I drop a piece of donut on the floor and it's in my own house, or really not even in my own house, if it's in Megan's house, I probably would pick it up. But
I believe you, considering you just picked the spoon off the floor and
you
used it in your
my coffee with it. Okay,
In
yes,
Megan's
I'm just
house,
letting you know.
Can leave it on there for an hour and still come back and pick it up, and it would be fine, because her house is always immaculate. And she's like, it's so dirty, and I'm like, I hate you.
Yeah, I'm just going to let everybody know I am disgusting, and I'm okay with this. I accept this about myself. I completely lost track of what I was. Oh, the
7
book.
Kids, so my house is never, ever put together.
So this book talks about how you talk yourself out of doing things in 5 seconds. A lot of times in 5 seconds. So I need to go do laundry, but I'm really tired. And so it takes you about 5 seconds to talk yourself out of doing it. Or I need to get up out of bed and not hit snooze. It takes you 5 seconds to figure that out and hit the snooze button. You can even do it when you're fearing something. I fear flying. And so there's a method that she uses with this also. So what she does is she counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just makes some sort of an action move towards whatever it is that she's needing to do, something. And I'll give you an example. So and she counts down, because if you count up, you naturally want to go to the next number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're just inclined to go to that next number. But 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you stop there. So I'm sitting on my couch. I've read this book, and I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm like, this is kind of weird, but I'm going to try it. So I need to transfer the laundry, and I'm just tired. I'm like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I just stand up. And then I think to myself, well, I'm already standing. I might as well go do it. And then I sat down, and I was like, oh my gosh, it just worked. So I started testing it out in other parts of my life. So we're talking about doing hard things. Well, this is how I started practicing doing hard things. I stopped procrastinating by practicing this method that Mel Robbins really talks a lot about. She's wrote books, she's done TED Talks, she's done lots of different things regarding this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so if you feel like you're procrastinating, or you have a weakness, or you have difficulty doing something hard, try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It activates the prefrontal cortex of your brain, and there's a whole lot of scientific stuff that goes along with it, but she's got some really good YouTube videos that are just kind of a quick, quick explanation of it. But it's helped me do those things that I didn't want to do, so that then I show up ready, because if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so that really helped me. So if you get a chance to take a look at this, and I don't know her, so I'm not, I'm not personally promoting her because friends with her. It's just something that I came across one day, and it really has changed the way that I do things, and it's helped me to do hard things.
Well, I might try this when it comes time to go to the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, it's helped me get up at 4:30 in the morning for months.
Amen. I'm really going to try this.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. And that's one of the things that, you were talking about me and Megan, but one of the things that I admire about you is having those hard conversations and being able to do that. I've heard plenty of people who have talked about how they couldn't explain something or couldn't say something to their kids, but they could bring them to you, and you could explain things that they didn't want to.
The sex talk. We're talking about that. Yes. People bring their young girls, or I haven't had any boys yet, but they're young people to me, so like it because the parents are uncomfortable with it, and I'm like.
Yeah,
it's
so
just
she is the best at having hard conversations, and maybe she uses the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Count down and then just blurt it out. Whatever you have to do. But
bravery.
That has definitely been one of the things that I have admired about you is being able to have those conversations and say those things, and not like let peer pressure and things like that get to you, that you say what you have to say and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
And I think I need more of that to be confident enough in myself to be able to say those things and do those things.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't necessarily let the chips fall where they may as much anymore, because now I'm more mindful of how it impacts people, and I want them to walk away with something palatable. You can have a steak dinner, beautiful T-bone steak cooked perfectly with a nice baked potato and some fresh macaroni and cheese, and you can serve that on a trash can lid. It's no longer palatable. No. So you can have some really great stuff, but if you deliver it wrong, people aren't going to walk away being fed.
Yeah, I agree. Well, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for our first podcast, our first episode. I am so excited to see where this goes from here, and we look forward to you hearing us again, I guess, because it's not that we're going to talk to you. We're going to talk to each other, though.
We're going to kick it, not quit it.
We're going to kick it, not quit it. So, we love you guys, and be blessed.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.